So the first and perhaps the most important element, the focal point, is the logo. Now really this project is intended to both teach you a workflow but also give you a strong piece to show off in your portfolio. So you have a few options to choose from. One, you could either create or, if you have some available, use one of your own sample logos. Two, you're welcome to use a sample logo that I've provided in the class resources. And it's an AI file, so you'll be able to open it up and you can actually change the brand name. You'll need the correct fonts installed to do this, which are Lato and Trajan Pro. You can license those both from Adobe Typekit, so if you're using Adobe CC, you likely have that as part of your plan already. Option 3, you could create a very simple wordmark logo simply by typing the brand name in your own favorite font. Or 4, if you've got the time to spare, and I highly recommend doing this if you haven't already, feel free to watch one of my other classes on logo design and create a strong sample, then rejoin me here when you have that ready to use for this project. So assuming you're choosing either option 2 or 3, I'll guide you through that here in this lesson. If you're using one of the other options I mentioned, feel free to skip this lesson and start the next one. So when you open up the sample logo file I've provided, this is what you should see. So first of all, you may get a warning if you don't have the correct fonts installed. So you'll want to install Lato, you'll need the thin and the lightweights for this, and Trajan Pro free, and I'll include links to these at the bottom of the screen. So with those fonts installed, you should be able to double click and edit this text to enter your own brand name. Now you may not need every version I've created here. On the third artboard there's a version that's just plain white. You can't see that because it's shown on a white background, but if I put a background there you can see it's sitting there with white text. So the idea is to give yourself some flexibility. If you had just one version of a logo, then that dictates the options you'll be able to use on the packaging. So I wanted to give you a version where you have a nice gold background, so it would effectively look like a gold sticker, and then you've got your text on top of it. You could actually use black text on top of this. So if you select the type and you use a black swatch, and that could work just as well, especially if your candle packaging itself, as mine will, has a black background. That would create the effect of almost a see-through element to the sticker. So you get the point. You have some options here. This one I've just colored kind of a gold, but you're going to really make this shine and come to life with the effects you choose in Adobe Dimension. So you could customize each one of these, but you'll probably struggle then to have the artwork match perfectly. So let's start with this version here, and you may not have 3 lines. You may just have a strong brand name. So let's say Evoke. And I quite like, especially if you have this kind of big bold type, I quite like to mix that using a tagline that gives you contrast underneath. It gives you a sense of scale. So I think a nice neat tagline tucked underneath is a good idea. Just be sure when you're finished to kind of zoom in, just tidy up the sizing so that you have a nice crisp edge. Make sure that looks good optically as well. And feel free to spend a little more time if you want. If you want to add some customization to it, go for it. And we're then going to delete what was here, and having copied, so select it all, Command or Control C to copy, and then with the next artboard selected, Command or Control F to paste in front, and that will give you the exact same positioning. We'll do that for this artboard. So I'm going to delete everything here, paste that in place, and if I want to change this to white, select the text and use a white swatch. And if you've opened my template, you'll have access to these swatches. So you'll have the standard colors, and you've got a gold and even a gradient gold that I've created for the stickers that you can use here. Let's do this last one, delete what's there, paste in place, and then let's select our gold swatch. And there we have it. So do the same, try to come up with a nice brand name. And if you want to spend a little time making it your own, please feel free to do that. But this is a starting point you can use. If you don't want to use that template as a starting point, that's absolutely fine. You can come up with something yourself, but a few suggestions. I think for this kind of luxury packaging, I found that a really nice classic looking serif works really well paired with something more modern and minimalist. I think the two complement each other. Otherwise, you could try something that is just minimalist and modern through and through. And if you're doing that, just be careful to balance the weights. If you've used a very light weight here, so for this I've used Lato hairline, then on the tagline, if I use hairline as well, well, that's just too thin. Even in Illustrator, that's hard to read. And when we export a PNG for the label, that's going to be, it's not going to render very well. So you want to use a weight that kind of complements that. I wouldn't make the tagline bolder than the main text. To me, that looks a little unbalanced. But if you choose something that makes the weights look similar or the same, or make sure the weight for your main brand name is bolder than the tagline. So just a few tips if you want to write something out yourself. But just use your favorite font, throw a tagline in there. If you're able to kind of adjust the spacing, so this would look really boring, the tagline, if it had default spacing, you know, that's no good to me. That's a bit boring. So super extending spacing gives you a sense of presence and looks quite elegant. So don't just use the default values. Experiment a little if you want, but by all means, you know, pick your favorite fonts, see what you can come up with yourself. So there's actually no need to export anything from here yet, but with your logo saved, join me in the next lesson where we'll put our labels together.